Since taking office in January, President Trump and his allies have not held back when it comes to how they feel and how they characterize federal judges who have written rulings against administration policies. Here is some of what we have heard them say.
This was a smackdown to a rogue left-wing, low-level district court judge.
No longer will we have rogue judges striking down President Trump's policies across the entire nation.
In recent months, we've seen a handful of radical left judges effectively try to overrule the rightful powers of the president.
Missouri Republican Senator Eric Schmitt joins me now. He has a new book out. The title, The Last Line of Defense, How to Beat the Left in Court, principally about his time as the Attorney General of the Show Me State, Missouri. Senator, it's good to have you. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate your time.
Great to be with you, Garrett.
You can call me Major.
Major Garrett, that is, Mr. Good. Major Garrett. Major Garrett. By the way, I feel terrible. As you're a Mizzou guy. You're a Mizzou guy. So
that's all right. That's all right.
We're very proud of all your work, Major.
All forgiveness extended. I read the book, and a lot of it is, of course, about COVID and social media platforms. And you argue that conservatives in America were disproportionately victimized during COVID and by social media platforms. Do you believe that was intentional or collateral damage?
No, I think that was precisely the point. And when we filed the Missouri versus Biden lawsuit, at the time it was called a conspiracy theory and nothing to it. And we're accused of doing it for publicity. And we made a strategic decision that, in that case, Major, where we sought discovery first before the injunction. And the discovery that we got, you got to remember this is before Elon Musk bought Twitter and the Twitter files and everything else. It was mind-blowing. I mean, you had secret portals where high-ranking government officials were communicating and coercing social media platforms to take people down. This started 3 days into the administration. We took the deposition of Anthony Fauci. We took the deposition of Elvis Chan, who you might remember is the FBI agent who was pre-bunking the Hunter Biden laptop story. So to me, the takeaway was this was a leviathan of government agencies that were weaponized to censor Americans. And we all know you can't do it under the First Amendment. The government can't. But you can't outsource that to some of the biggest companies in the history of the world. And so that's why I wrote the book. There's a lot of lessons learned here and really a playbook for standing up and fighting back for those core liberties that Americans should enjoy that were under assault during the Biden administration.
Senator, if there is a district court judge or a appellate court judge who rules against the Trump administration, is that judge by definition a rogue judge?
Not necessarily, but I do think, take, for example, Judge Boasberg. Judge Boasberg got a number of these high-profile cases in the D.C. District Court. He wasn't the emergency judge on duty. He was on vacation in some of these, including some of the deportation cases. Somehow got it. It's supposed to be randomly assigned. He wasn't the guy that was supposed to get it that night and issued a really kind of an out-of-bounds decision. He's been smacked down now by the Supreme Court on a couple of occasions. And so I think in some instances, yes, these judges are going off rogue and introducing their own political bias and ought to be called out for that. And I think most of these cases, Major, as they made their way through these district court cases, they're frustrating for the Trump administration initially, but as they made their way through, by and large, he's been successful on personnel and programming and also on the deportations as it's made its way up the appellate courts and ultimately to the Supreme Court.
Chief Justice Roberts has urged the president to be cautious in his denunciations of the federal bench. He's also expressed some concern about the danger that those on the federal judiciary face from this kind of rhetoric. Do you share those concerns at all?
Well, I do think more people should have spoken out when Chuck Schumer stood on the Supreme Court steps and said that the justices are about to reap a whirlwind and then faced assassination attempts. So I feel like that, a one-sided review all this is not exactly fair. And I didn't hear a lot of commentary when we saw the lawfare and the weaponization of the FBI and the Justice Department to try to take out their chief political opponent. So I think the Democrats are really the ones who have weaponized the judicial system, unfortunately. That's why I wrote the book, Last Line of Defense. You got to stand up and push back. I want everyone to be treated fairly and equally under the law. Unfortunately, during the Biden administration, we saw a Department of Justice that was weaponized against political opponents.
And under the Trump Justice Department, do you see retribution or just rebalancing?
I think, look, this was the subject of a lot of the confirmation hearings for Pam Bondi, Kash Patel. Kash Patel in particular, who was a victim of this. I think they want to restore credibility by making sure people are treated fairly. But I do think there ought to be accountability. I mean, you just take the Russia hoax, for example, Major. Like, I just don't think you can concoct a story, launder it through intelligence reports, and then try to sideline a presidency. I mean, that's a pretty big deal in this country, and it's a big scandal. So we'll see if accountability happens with that. But certainly people are becoming much more aware of how insidious this really was within the FBI in particular, and a lot of other agencies, including CISA, which is an agency nobody's really ever heard of, but they were also censoring speech through big tech companies and going after political speech they didn't agree with. I just think this is something that we shouldn't tolerate in the country. And in order to restore trust, I think, in these institutions, there needs to be transparency and accountability.
Does that mean prosecution?
Potentially. I think that I've got an op-ed out this week, Major, where there is a path, I think, for prosecution in the Russiagate case if you talk about a conspiracy, because although the statute of limitations may have expired on some of the potential charges, not on an ongoing conspiracy. And I think if you're going to see indictments, which I think there probably should be in this instance, that would be the avenue I would guess that they might pursue.
You mentioned the FBI. Your successor as Missouri Attorney General, Andrew Bailey, was recently tapped to be the co-deputy director. What's that about, and how much of that has to do with the Deputy Director, Diane Bongino's expressed reservations about the way the administration is proceeding with the Epstein matter?
Yeah, I mean, all I could say is what I know, which is Andrew Bailey did a great job following me, and I think they want more hands on deck in the FBI. There's a lot of reform, and I think some more house cleaning that needs to happen with, again, you just got to go back in time. I mean, parents were being investigated for going to school board meetings under the auspices of the Patriot Act. Traditional Catholics were being spied on because they went to a Latin mass. I mean, this stuff is pretty wild. And so I think there's some house cleaning still to do in the FBI, and I think Andrew will be a part of that reform movement.
Are you satisfied with the administration's approach to the Epstein files so far?
I think there needs to be more transparency. I really do. Hopefully there's more to come there. But, it's also hard to know as a former prosecutor what exactly people are looking at. But I think that'd be a good thing if there's some more transparency.
Very quickly, Senator, before I let you go, Tom Tillis told me earlier this week he sees no reason for the majority leader to hold back any longer on the sanctions package against Russia that has 87 co-sponsors, meaning Republicans and Democrats. Do you agree?
I probably disagree with my friend, Senator Tillis, on that. I want to follow the president's lead on this right now. That we have that in the holster if we want to use, but we're right now in the middle of a really high-stakes negotiation between Russia and Ukraine that the president, through sheer will and I think determination, is bringing these parties together. Nobody else on the planet could do it. No European leader could do it. The former president, Joe Biden, never wanted to do it. President Trump has got Putin at the table, Zelensky at the table, hopefully, for some negotiations. Let's see how that plays out. I think that's what diplomacy is all about. It's hard, it can be frustrating, and sometimes it takes longer than it's supposed to, but we do have a president, I think, that's dedicated to the peace process, and I want to see that play out.
Missouri Republican Senator Eric Schmitt, hope you'll come back. Thanks for your time.
We'll do it. Thanks, Major.